Hey guys, Chris from Provo Beast Audio Installation, and in today's video we're going to be replacing the factory radio on this 2006 to 2010 Jeep Commander. Now in this install what we're going to be doing is getting everything removed. We'll head over to the bench, show you the new radio including the dash kit and wiring harness that we're going to use, and come back here to get everything reinstalled. Let's get started. Now, before we get started, double check to make sure all of your discs are out. Now, there's also different variations of radio. Some could be like the navigation size like we have, or some could be smaller. It just kind of depends on your trim level. We'll post in the description all the variations of kits that are available to accommodate your needs and trim level. Also, in this specific Jeep, we have steering wheel volume controls on the back of the steering wheel we want to retain. And it has the upgraded sound system in it as well. And so we want to retain that factory amplifier. You may or may not have it, but again, once we get to the bench, we'll show you the parts that we'll need for that install. All right, so first thing we got to get this radio on out. This whole dash bezel is up and around the radio, and it's one piece. It does look like it's different pieces, and it's actually held in with clips and these Allen head screws. What we found is the 3/16 Allen head fits. Yeah, you can try different sizes to find one that fits. We're going to use a driver today to go ahead and pull those on out. So go ahead and remove all of them. There's 4, 8, 12, 16 total. So go ahead and start pulling them out. Alright, so with all those screws removed, again, all 16 of them, the rest of the panel is just held on with clips. What we're going to do is just kind of get our fingers on the top of it, kind of work its way on out, just like so. It's just held on, again, all with clips. Just take your time, you don't want to break anything. Up and over the steering column. Okay, so with that up and out of the way, the radio itself is held on with 4 Phillips screws. Going to remove those screws. Go and pull out your radio and disconnect your harnesses here. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's head over to the bench and show you the parts that we're going to need for our install.
This video is sponsored by Crux Interfacing Solutions, an excellent location for radio replacements, camera interfaces, and more. Check out cruxinterfacing.com to start planning your next install today.
Alright, so here at the bench, the parts that we're going to need for our install. First and foremost, the radio that we've chosen to go with is this dual Apple Carplay and Android Auto Bluetooth radio. This is the DCPA701. It's a double-DIN touchscreen radio. Now, to accommodate that in the dash, what we need to do is also use the Metra 99-6510 double or single DIN dash kit for select Chrysler and Jeep vehicles. And for our wiring, so we can integrate that with our factory system, we're using the Crux SOOC-26. This also retains the factory steering wheel controls and the premium sound amplifier that was previously installed by the factory. Now, additionally, you'll need an antenna adapter, which we have here, which we'll link down in the description, as well as we're doing a USB flush mount, where essentially it has a single USB here. This doesn't have an aux, it just has a USB input, and we're using that. We're going to mount this in the factory power socket location to make it easy and simple to access Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Now keep in mind, we're going to link everything that you see here down in the description of the video, just so it's easy for you to pick up yourself. Now what we're going to do at this point in time is we're going to grab the wiring harness out of our dual box, and we're also going to grab our wiring harness here and start prepping that wiring harness. So for our wiring, we pulled our Crux box apart. Now our Crux kit comes with 2 sets of harnesses. It comes with a brain module here and a few steering wheel control adapters, and we're going to show you the ones that we'll need for our application here today. To know which harness you need, you either use one or the other and not both. The easiest way to determine which harness fits your vehicle is literally go into the car after the radio's been removed, see which one plugs in. Now we know from checking that this style fits. This style does not fit our application. So we'll set that off to the side. We're going to be using this today. Now, second thing to note, if you're unsure if you have the factory amplifier or not, another easy way to double check is when you do go plug this in to try to see how it fits, take special note at your speaker connections. Now, our speakers are whites and grays, greens and purples, and when you plug this in, see if these wires pass through to the harness side and see if there's wires plugged into the other side of that factory harness. When you plug that on in and you notice that for the purples and greens you do have wires on the other side, for the grays and whites there's no wires on the factory harness side, that's telling you that you actually have the factory amplifier, because that factory amplifier only takes 2 channels of input, and it happens to be the rear speakers. If you see wires on all sets of speaker wires in the factory harness, you just have the basic sound system, you don't have the factory amplifiers. Something to note. We're going to grab our heat shrink after we strip all our wires. We'll put them up and over our wire, so when we solder them today, we can move that heat shrink up and over that connection and shrink the tube. Alright, so we've prepped our wire, got our heat shrink up and over one end, just so when those connections cool, we can move it up and over. Quick thing to note, so if you do have the factory amplifier, we got to look at our diagram from Crux. Now, according to them, if you have the amplified system, you have to wire your radio's front speakers, the white, black, gray, black, to the amplified step-down modules, green, black, purple, black, respectively. Just because, again, remember, the factory amplifier only takes 2 channels of input, and it happens to be the rear channel, so you gotta wire it according to Crux, because we want our front speakers to be your primary speakers for that sound to be played throughout the entire vehicle. If you don't have the amplified system, remember, if you have all wires pinned and that factory amplifier isn't in your vehicle, then you just wire it color for color. So keep in mind special instructions. Alright, so we finished wiring everything up here. Again, because we have the factory amplifier, we wired our radio's front speakers into the white goes to green, white black goes to green black, gray goes to purple, and gray black goes to purple black. But if you didn't have the factory amplifier, it literally would be color for color. So we won't be using our front speakers on our Crux side, and we won't be using our rear speakers on our radio side. We plugged our step-down harness into the amplified side, but again, if you didn't have the amplifier, you just plug it into the non-amplified side. We didn't have a vehicle speed sense, so we didn't use that, but everything else we just matched up. It was great. Now, with this Crux harness, there's 2 variations of your steering wheel controls, so look at your instructions here. It'll identify which of these 2 versions you'll need. We didn't need this one, we only needed this one. Then this end kind of looks like an aux jack, but it will plug into the wired remote of our radio just like that. So we'll get everything zip tied. So at this point in time, let's move our heat shrink up and over those connections, shrink it down with the heat gun. Alright, so with our wiring harness all done, essentially here at this point of time, this is good to go. Let's turn our attention over to the dash kit. Next here, let's go ahead and focus on our dash kit. Now we have a radio out of the box here. What we need to do is pull the dash kit apart so we can get it mounted up and over the radio. Alright, so with our dash kit here, the one that we went with is a high gloss. Looks really nice. Should match the factory dash really well. We have this little foam paper down just to avoid any scratches while we assemble the dash kit. Alright, the dash kit is all assembled, ready to go. Pretty straightforward. Looks really nice. It should actually turn out to be a really nice install. So, with that done and out of the way, and with the wiring harness all assembled, at this point in time, we could probably head over to the car and start getting everything reinstalled. Alright, so we're back here in the car. We are ready to start getting everything reassembled. Now you may notice that we've removed our heating and air controls. We have this down here so we can actually install our flush mount USB, which we've done so there. We just pop the power socket out and put a little hot glue just so it won't come loose down the road. If you want to see how we remove this panel, we'll just do a quick overlay or essentially remove the trim panel up around the gear shift. and remove the screw out of the pocket, and the rest of it just pops out with clips. Pretty straightforward and simple. Then we disconnected our harnesses. So let's go ahead and reinstall this bezel here. Alright, so with that back in place, at this point let's grab our harness and start making our connections. Main wiring harness. So our main wiring harness will plug in here, just like so. Grab our antenna adapter, plug that on in, just like that. Okay, let's start hooking up the radio. Alright, let's do a little test to make sure everything is working before we totally reassemble the dash bezel. Okay, everything's working great. Let's go ahead and continue reassembling the dash bezel. Yep, everything's working great. So at this point of time, we are done with this install. If you like what you saw, go ahead and hit that like button. We appreciate the support, and don't forget to subscribe. We post great content on the channel all the time, and we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.